So here we are on Skymark, latest Kraken 50, which is 004. She launched a month ago, and we're now on passage from Istanbul, from Tuzla, Istanbul, down to Bodrum, where our new facility is. What we want to show you today is the fantastic setups that are possible with a Solent rig. All Krakens are Solent rigged, and there's some very big benefits of this particular rig, one of which is that under which we're running at the moment. And we're running butterfly rig on both the jib and the genoa, set on opposite sides of the boat. One of the banes of blue water sailing and passage making in general, whether it's ocean sailing or not, is that you very often find a very awkward wind right over the stern. That can be a great deal of, can cause a great deal of consternation for the crew and the helmsman in particular, making sure that the mainsail doesn't jibe in an uncontrolled jibe. With the sails set in a butterfly on the Solent rig, actually you've no possibility of jibing at all, of course, because there's no mainsail out and therefore no boom to fly across. It's also fantastic for driving the boat forward, because all of your drive is coming in the foresails, and the boat is not tending to screw as she goes down each wave and pivot. You do, of course, get some barreling, but it's very minimal by comparison to sailing under a goose wing setup for downwind. So what you would often look to do to try and avoid a jibe situation and the rolling that's created by a goose wing run is you'll go into a deep breach and you'll effectively tack downwind. Of course, that increases your distance, and with the butterfly rig of the Solent, you can run absolutely dead downwind. And what you'll find you'll do is actually search out a dead downwind run, because this is such a beautiful point of sail. We've been sailing this morning, and we were yesterday evening, on a dead downwind run on the butterfly setup. We're averaging about 8 knots now, and we did yesterday too. Slightly less wind yesterday, and it's starting to drop back a little bit now, but we've been hitting 9 and 9.5 knots as the boat surged through the seas. It's a very, very nice way to sail. The boat is so stable and in control, and we are sitting here wonderfully enclosed in the fixed bimini, so that despite the fact it is actually quite chilly out, with obviously a wind blowing that would ordinarily be blowing straight over your stern and chilling the helmsman. And if anybody watching this saw the article that I recently wrote called Cold Turkey, that was just a month ago, and we didn't have that wrap round bimini sides, and yeah, I can tell you it was very, very cold. The coldest I'd ever been sailing. It was snowing while we were sailing. Very, very awful conditions. But in how we're going today, you know, it's just where's the wind going to take us? Where are we going to go? On this particular sail, as I said, we're going to Bodrum, but you get the distinct feeling as you're sailing under this rig that you can go any way the wind takes you. The trade winds, of course, are the winds that are going to drive most ocean passages, and it will be a tough choice to decide to go against those trade winds and spend days and days tacking. Well, of course, Robin Knox Johnson did do exactly that on several passages, as did Jay Blythe. But the average sensible strategy is to stay in those trade winds, look for that dead downwind run, and this is the rig that will utilise it best. I'll go up on the foredeck shortly and explain a little bit more about the differences between a Solent rig and a cutter rig, but principally those differences are that the jib is taken much further forward. Is actually the structural stay here. You get a much larger foresail jib triangle, so you've got more sail area, which at a different point of sail then becomes your upwind sail for tacking and for beating upwind. But in this particular setup, it works absolutely perfectly because you've got two good sized sails up there catching the wind, one driving the wind into the other. The jib is of course upwind from the Genoa, and so its main function is to catch the wind and funnel it into the bigger driving sail, the Genoa, and that's what we're doing. We've been making, as I said, a steady 8 knots. The wind has now produced a fair seaway. There's about a 2 to 3 metre sea running. It doesn't seem like that when you're looking at it on a video or in a photograph. It always looks a lot less, but we'll show you some shots over the stern shortly, and you'll be able to see there's a decent sea running. Here we are up on the bow of Skymark. It really doesn't get much better sailing. We're going like an absolute train. The boat is tracking beautifully. There's quite a bit of wind now. We got about 15, 16 knots of apparent wind, and true wind is about 22. We're making fantastic headway, as you can probably see, doing around about 8 knots. Just over, gusting towards, I should say, surging towards 9. So absolutely, absolutely wonderful sailing, and there can't be a better place in the world than to be up here, right on the bow of the boat as we're hurtling along. What I want to do is show you how far forward the jib is on a Solent rig, and we have just 80 centimetre gap between the Genoa forestay and the jib forestay, and this allows a perfect size jib to funnel wind, as it is doing right at this time, to funnel wind into the Genoa. What we would do if we were running on an ocean passage is we'd put out the two poles, two different length poles. One that poles out the jib or the Genoa, and the other that poles out the Genoa or the code sail. And the objective is to be able to sail under almost any circumstances, dead downwind, any wind strengths. And you can start off with the code sail and the Genoa. If the wind gets up, you can put the code sail away, and then you can run under jib and Genoa. If the wind gets up further, you put the jib away. It gets further, you reef the Genoa, and it gets further, you put the Genoa away, and you run under the jib alone, and then eventually, if it's really blowing, you keep a handkerchief up of the jib, and you're still carrying on even with 50 knots of wind. So the tactic we might take if the wind strength gets up is we'll just put a couple of furls in the Genoa away, and all will be fine. So what I want to do is explain how the jib needs to be set up and trimmed for the Solent rig when you're running butterfly. Obviously the track and the cars for the jib are well onto the foredeck and therefore won't allow the sail to open fully for when you're running. So what we've done is we've set up a second sheet here, and that sheet is running down onto a pad eye loop. All of the stanchions of a Kraken have pad eyes on the bottom and all are structurally bolted all the way through, so they are very, very strong. And we've led this line from the clew here down onto the stanchion block and then up onto the winch, so we can just trim it and fine it as the need and as the wind dictates. And this keeps the sail very open, as you can see, and then it can really funnel the wind coming over the stern into the Genoa, and gives us some excellent speed and passage making. But also having a sail on each side of the boat, and particularly having sails at the bow rather than at the mast and the bow, means that the stability and the tracking of the boat is much better. What you tend to get when you're running goose winged is obviously there's load and drive on the mainsail and in the centre of the boat via the mast, and that tends to make the boat corkscrew. Whereas this method, you do get roll, you do according to the wave size, but the corkscrewing doesn't occur. It's a great way to sail the oceans.